Okay. Well, when that happened, what they didn't tell the public was that they had instructions in the CD-ROM to disable what they felt were competitors to AOL. So lo and behold, the person would go and try and get, at the time it was Netscape. They try to get into their Netscape mail, and Netscape doesn't exist anymore, but they would try to get into whatever local email they use, Roadrunner or whatever, or IBM, and they couldn't get in because they had been disabled by the AOL disk. It was quite interesting. And in addition to that, well, someone got angry about it. They got together, they sued, they all wind up in court. AOL lost. I forget what type of fine they paid, if any. But the result was we figured, wow, that ended. Justice prevailed. No. The judge said they couldn't send those discs anymore. So they paid third world countries to prepare the discs in their laboratories, in their factories, and ship them from there and continue giving free time with the disabling features. That's how they got away with it for another 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So because
those things really happen.
So because they're using foreign, maybe international rules and stuff, is that because how is YouTube going to get away with claiming, in this country, in America, how is YouTube going to get away with claiming open forum status, yet acting?
Happens every day. Goes on every day.
So I wonder how, but they're in court now.
I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime, but this morning I was greeted with the news that Mr. Schiff said, "Oh, come on now. Surely you knew that was a parody, didn't you?" He actually said that.
Adam Schiff, let's see, Schiff.
Yeah, yes, Adam Schiff. He said that what he claimed about the whistleblower document, it was a parody, he said. It was, in other words, look at the definition of parody. It doesn't even say you are the person or making believe you're someone else. It says you are doing something like they do. That's like saying he signed that document with a big pen, and so did I. I use a big pen too. Therefore, it's the same. A likeness of. How ridiculous is that? And I can't believe that came on. That was on the news. It wasn't a comedy show.
So are you now is this getting back to social media and people, particularly YouTube, stating that they're an open platform, and that are you? And I could be completely wrong in this. Are you suggesting that what legal maneuver they're going to make is that YouTube, that is a parody of they don't really mean it?
They don't really mean it. I'll give you. We all know that we have viruses in our computers. Now we have them on our phone. Okay. There are companies that hire kids that live in grandma's basement, and some are. You go to countries where you can get up to 10,000 young men and women to write really ugly code and viruses that you then disperse on the web. Now, the same companies that are paying these kids to create this havoc, these viruses, and then release them, are also the companies who will come to you within a week after your computer is completely shot and offer you a solution. And that's no different than the large pharmaceuticals. I'm not saying they make people sick, but that they prey on the sick, and they do all these wonderful studies to find out how many people are so sick and how quickly and how many are going to die. And they do these statistical evaluations and testings in regions and countries, by ethnic group, by age, by gender, and then they come up with a solution. But how convenient that you are involved in all of the illness when you could say, you know what, I've got some medicine in my lab that'll take care of this right now. And they won't. They have to have, like automobile manufacturers, they have to have so many people die before they'll recall something. And vaping, look at vaping. Vaping is adorable. 7 people have died in the last 8 months from vaping.
Right.
Do you know how many people die daily from tobacco?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing of it is, the one thing that you know, because who is a reliable source? Who are they to say what is a reliable source? I mean, the thing of it is, the government is not a reliable source. They've lied to us. Mainstream media has lied to us. So who determines what and who is a reliable source? Why? I just don't understand why YouTube and Twitter and Facebook don't let the public decide what is truth from lies. Why do they?
This is a capitalistic country, and the money rules the market. This is not a mystery.
You know, Ruthie, I'm gonna have to a point. I think there are a lot of people who think they know what is best for
Yes.
you and me, and
Yes.
I think they're egos, and I could be completely wrong on this, but I think a lot of egos are involved in this, and they don't like, because before, I mean, I remember with the SJWs making these videos and telling us how to act and behave towards one another, and they were getting clowned, and they were getting, you know, there was pushback, and they didn't have a good argument for that. So then what they started to do was just say, well, we're going to censor you. And you know, that's kind of what I mean, because I've been watching like the SJWs and the anti-SJWs, and the SJWs weren't winning. They were not winning the intellectual argument. So it's kind of like that they went to Big Mommy and Daddy Big Tech and said, these people are hurting us. They're doing white supremacy. They're doing racism. They have to be stopped. And Big Tech just followed right along with them, because I think Big Tech was in with the social justice identity crowd, you know, because that's what they teach. It looks like that's what they're teaching people at college too. So they all went along with it. And now, like I said, and that's one of the reasons why they're pushing big content. I mean, they're pushing mainstream content, because mainstream is kind of with the identitarian kind of SJW kind of crowd, and they didn't like the pushback they were getting.
That's correct.
And yeah, I mean, with that being said, I can't, you know, I don't, you know, because the majority of people I don't think like what they're doing, but they're still doing it anyway, and they're getting away with it. And it's just, it boggles the mind that there hasn't been really effective pushback on this to kind of stop it.
Correct.
And you know what? With that being said, is there anything else to add? Because I don't want to, you know, we kind of wanted to make our shows a little bit shorter until we have, you know, shows with longer content and stuff. Was there anything else to add before we end this, Ruthie?
We should all consider waiting, I'd say 2 or 3 more months to wait and see where the dust settles and what decisions are made as to who gets to lead. Because as far as I see from my life experience, who has the most money always wins. And I don't see that this is going to be any different. It's a sad statement, but it's a true statement.
But sometimes grassroots things take a while to get a hold. There is a lawsuit. PragerU is suing Google and YouTube And I'm wondering what that lawsuit's going to, they lost their first go around, but they're in it again. And I wonder if Congress is also going to act on maybe breaking up the big tech monopolies. And I wonder what's.
I don't think so, because they are so useful to congressmen and senators when they want to run for office. The amount of data that they can manipulate and steer and drive for individuals who have the money to pay for these campaigns is quite remarkable. And I don't think that if there's a neighborhood dog that's really dangerous, and you all sit around and talk about it, how dangerous this dog is, it's all well and good until you find that dog is protecting you. Then all of a sudden the dog isn't so mean anymore because he's protecting your interests.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, and they have enough money to play all kinds of games and the like, and they can shut people down, and they can also hurt and destroy lives, as we've seen, as I have witnessed countless times on social media. And it's I don't know, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen, and I've seen these groups called before Congress. The head of Google has been called. I forget his name. I believe Jack Dorsey and the head of Facebook. I'm surprised that Susan Wojcicki has not been called before Congress. Do you know any reason why that hasn't happened?
I haven't looked into that case. I'm unfamiliar. I've stayed out of. Haven't you noticed I've stayed out of politics lately?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious to know. Yeah, well, it's kind of a hobby of mine, and I kind of look at it and I examine it. But I'm just curious to know why that, like, all these other big tech giants have been called before Congress, with the exception of her. That's all I've noticed, and I don't know why that has or hasn't happened.
If we're going to look for people who we haven't heard from or seen or had anything to do with in a long, long time, you see all these discussions going back and forth, the political discussions going back and forth. Mm-hmm. Oh, the Mueller report, which clearly he had nothing to do with. He didn't even know what was in it. And it's going to be huge. And it came and it fell on its face. It was nothing. And now we have this person who's a whistleblower. Again, nothing. But if you say it often enough, and you say it and you keep repeating it, after a while it becomes the call of the community, because you keep repeating it. Haven't you noticed one? Forgive me for interrupting you. I said that to say this, that with all that happened and these terrible Pfizer reports, that they were Pfizer this and Pfizer that, and everything always comes back to the Pfizer reports. Haven't you noticed that not once has the attorney assigned by Obama, who was friends with Eric Holder, the judge from Miami, who actually signed those 4 Pfizer warrants, no one mentions his name.
And why is it?
And not once has he been asked to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You don't wonder about that?
Well, like I said, it seems like sometimes the mainstream media is in cahoots. I think they believe in some of the same things, and their ego. Like I said, to me, more than money, it's also ego, and ego is one of the most powerful narcotics known to man.
Oh yes, it's worse than heroin.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of these people have their egos on the line, and they've been pushing this kind of thing, this social justice, or whatever issue they're pushing. And when they get proven wrong, instead of saying I was wrong, Instead, what they do is they double down and then they censor anyone that dissents.
Anyone who says anything